Hello, everybody. How's it going? I'm Craig, and this is the Spirit of Vinyl. How's everybody out there in the vinyl community doing today? Hope you guys all had a wonderful week and everything's going well. Out here, it's fall starting to really take a hold down here in Tennessee. Getting a little cold, having a little bit of rain today, and that made me think since Halloween's next week, I would do something. We'll do some Halloween themed records and see how things go from there. So let's start here. Black Sabbath self-titled record. This album, it's got a nice spooky Halloweeny type cover. The song Black Sabbath, the song NIB, the song The Warning, all of these things, let's see, what's the other one? Wicked World. I mean, these are all cool stuff. This is a great album to listen to on Halloween. It's kind of spooky and dark. It starts with the rain and the bells, and lyrically, it's just very cool. I think this is a very cool album for the time of year. So the reason I picked Black Sabbath, self-titled, is because it is a very spooky album. So that's a good one for Halloween. The next one I picked, Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. Now, I know Shout at the Devil isn't necessarily spooky, other than the cover's got that, sorry about the glare, guys, upside down pentagram on there. The reason I picked this one for the spookiness aspect is I remember when I bought this album, I don't know, I was probably 14 years old. We're at the mall. I'm at the mall with my parents. They're shopping at Sears or whatever, and I'm like, I gotta go to the record store. I'm gonna go buy a record. They're like, okay. And I come back with this, and the look in my parents' face when I pulled it out of the bag. I went to the record bar or whatever, and when I pulled it out of the bag, the look in my parents' face with the pentagram and everything on there, you could tell they were terrified. They're nice, little Christian son. My parents were very, not super religious, but, they were fairly religious for their time. And, going to church every Sunday and being involved and everything else. And here's their 14-year-old listening to Shout at the Devil, And I pulled that whole same line, like, Mom, it says shout at the devil, not shout with the devil, But, just the look of it, and then when I got home and opened it up and the pictures on the inside of the band and everything else, you could tell they were terrified. So this album kind of reminds me of that. So scare your parents, play Shout at the Devil. Next, I'm picking AC/DC, Highway to Hell. Besides the main song, being on a highway to hell, and you got Angus with the horns right there, but the song Night Prowler, about a guy who breaks into your house and does whatever he wants, and, all that's kind of innuendo when you listen to the song, but, I'm a night prowler, I sleep in the day, when I come in, there's nothing you can do. Kind of creepy, kind of scary, very Halloweeny. So, all right, next, Anthrax, Among the Living. So the reason I picked Among the Living for Halloween is it's definitely horror themed. The song Among the Living is inspired by Stephen King's The Stand, which is probably one of the greatest horror novels ever written. It's definitely King's magnum opus, pretty much. So the song Among the Living is based on The Stand. That's The Walking Dude. It's about Randall Flagg, and it's about the disease that spreads across the country or spreads across the world and kills off the world, essentially. And The Walking Dude, who is Randall Flagg, that's the name of the character in the book. Follow Me or Die and all that stuff. So also on this record is the song Skeletons in the Closet, which is also based on a Stephen King book or inspired by a Stephen King book, called Apt Pupil. It's about a Nazi who's living his life in America, and some teenager in his neighborhood figures out that he's a Nazi and kind of blackmails him to tell him stories and things like that. That's where the lines like "Tell me story" come from. It's from Apt Pupil. Very cool book. Decent movie. They kind of cut off they kind of changed the ending in the movie. I suggest you read the book. So Anthrax, Among the Living, due to those two songs, very spooky, very Halloween type kind of horror. Next, King Diamond Them. This is a concept album. This is very spooky. Look, the house is all scary looking on the front cover. This is a great metal album, cool, good guitar work, and lyrically, it tells a story of a boy named King, and he lives with his mom and his sister, and their grandma comes to live with them. And when grandma comes, she's in a wheelchair and she's kind of creepy, and she basically awakens what they call the invisible guest, who live up in the attic, and they're like spirits up there, like these malevolent spirits. And it's, the whole story about time for tea and basically bloodletting mom in order to make the tea and sacrificing Missy and all this stuff. And King is seeing all this happen, ends up killing his grandma, and ends up going into the insane asylum because the doctor thinks it's all in his mind and he's just a crazy guy who killed his family. And then at the end of the record, the phone rings when the King character gets out, and you realize that it really is invisible guests and there really are demons. Very cool story, very Halloween, very spooky. All right, next up, Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. I picked this one because besides the song Burn in Hell, which is kind of cool and spooky, it's the Captain Howdy Street Justice. It's called the Horror Terrier. Captain Howdy is about a serial killer who kills children in the neighborhood, and he gets off on a technicality. And then Street Justice is about the people in the streets taking their own form of justice and basically stringing the guy up and killing him out in the street. He did make a movie called Strangeland that's loosely based on these two songs, which is a very cool movie. But the songs have that nice, creepy vibe. And, plus Dee Snider looks like a Halloween character anyway. So I picked this Halloween because of Captain Howdy and Street Justice. All right, now we're going to move on to more reality than anything else. So, Exodus, Blood In, Blood Out. This has a song called BTK, which is about Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. He was a serial killer in the United States. And I can't remember how many people Dennis Rader killed, but so the song BTK is about Dennis Rader. It was Bind, Torture, Kill is what the BTK stands for. And he was a serial killer who was active for a while and then went inactive and basically let his hubris get him caught. He couldn't help himself. He just had to write to the police. And then, get this, the thing with BTK that got him caught, the computers were fairly new, and he asked the police in one of his letters is if he sent in like a computer file, if they would be able to tell, if he sent in a floppy disk, if they'd be able to tell where it came from. And they're like, no, we'd never be able to tell that. So he sent in a floppy disk the next time, and they traced it back to the computer that was used, and that's how they caught Dennis Rader, who's a real piece of shit, by the way. I mean, he was a serial killer. So, all right, Slayer, Season the Abyss. Song on here called Dead Skin Mask. It's about Ed Gein. Ed Gein was a serial killer back in the 40s, I think, if I remember correctly. And when Ed Gein was caught and they searched his house, he had a human skin suit. He only killed 2 people, but he would also dig up graves of recently deceased women, and he was trying to make himself a female bodysuit. When they raided his house, they found the cauldron that he was using to boil down the meat, and they found the skin suit. He had lampshades made out of human skin. He had a belt made out of nipples, and all kinds of creepy, scary stuff. So the song Dead Skin Mask is about Ed Gein. Ed Gein is also the inspiration for like Leatherface and Norman Bates and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. All those are kind of based on the idea of Ed Gein, So, and Ed Gein was basically just a crazy person who was totally obsessed with his mother. And when his mother died, that's when he started digging up bodies and trying to make a skin suit. So, Dead Skin Mask. Of course, the whole album is very cool and very creepy. So, All right, next up, this is the best of Judas Priest. On this album is this song, The Ripper. I do not have the original album with The Ripper on it. I only have this best of album, and The Ripper is about Jack the Ripper. London town streets, darkness and fog, you know, you can call me Jack the Knife, those type of lines. It's obviously about Jack the Ripper. And we all know the story of Jack the Ripper, infamous serial killer of the 1800s of London. So, Judas Priest, best of Judas Priest. Look how young they were back then. I mean, this is a long time ago. I want to say this is only like, they'd only had 2 or 3 albums out when they put this out. So, first Judas Priest album I ever owned was the best of Judas Priest. Not this copy. This is one of the ones I found. My original copy is framed up and hanging on the wall behind me, which I don't think you can see in the camera. So, but yeah, The Ripper, about Jack the Ripper. And finally, Slipknot's latest album, The End So Far, has a song on it called the Chapeltown Rag. And besides Slipknot looking like Halloween characters with the mask and the suits and everything, the song Chapeltown Rag is about Peter Sutcliffe, who was also known as the Yorkshire Ripper. It's not really about Peter Sutcliffe, it's about the media coverage of his murders at the time. Chapeltown was the area. A rag is a slang term for those pulp-type newspapers during the time when Sutcliffe was in his killing spree in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s. Peter Sutcliffe killed 13 women, attempted murders 7, committed multiple rapes, and was a real piece of shit. And he ended up dying of COVID in 2021 or whatever, so at least COVID did something good by killing Peter Sutcliffe. So that's the song Chapeltown Rag is more about the media coverage of those murders. But I thought it would fit this whole Halloween theme also, so that's why I chose it. And that's pretty much it for today. Not that you guys would care or notice. This is the second time I've had to record this video because my video software fucked everything up, so I had to do it again. So I guarantee the one that got screwed up was way better than the episode you're watching now. Anyway, I hope you guys are all having a wonderful weekend. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Thanks for all the subs. I made it over 200, so that's cool. Like I've always said when I started doing this, I didn't think anybody would watch at all. So I want to thank you guys all for watching, all the comments and everything else. You really make this fun. It makes it fun for me to do. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful and safe and happy Halloween. And be careful out there. You never know what kind of crazy person that's out there. And it is spooky season. So, you know, keep the eyes going in the back of your head. All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. We will talk to you all later. Have a good one, all.